Welcome in, everyone. Ready to dig into something interesting. Today, we're going deep, and I mean deep, into the world of AI and gardening. Get this, we're talking about the future of gardens.
AI predicting what our gardens will look like in like 30 years, it's wild.
It's like someone took everything about climate and plants and even like what people are into these days and asked a computer to predict the future of our gardens.
And we get to break it all down. We've got this super interesting article all about these AI predictions. Plus, we'll hear what gardening expert David Dominy thinks about it all. So what's the big picture? Robot lawn gnomes or something even more, out there. Think bigger. AI is saying sustainability and tech, those are the big things changing gardens. Like, picture vertical farms right in your living room. AI taking care of your plants, stuff like that.
Okay, so less about getting your hands dirty, more about like plugging your garden in. Let's break it down decade by decade. What about right now, the 2020s? What's AI seeing?
It's less about crazy new stuff and more about things that are already happening, just like becoming more normal. Think composting, using rainwater, and way more people gardening in cities. You know, like turning their balconies into tiny gardens.
Yeah, even I've
Fun
got
thing.
tomatoes growing on my balcony right now. But it's not just about fitting plants into every little space, right? The AI also mentioned native plants and biodiversity. Like, that's going to be huge.
Exactly. It's about making gardens that look good but also help the environment, work with nature, which is something a lot of gardeners are already into these days.
Totally. Working with nature, not against it. Oh, and the AI also said that all the good stuff about gardening for, like, your mental health, that's going to be more important than ever.
And that's interesting, actually, because Dominy, our expert, he was saying gardeners have known that being around plants is good for you for ages, like way before AI came along.
It makes you wonder why it takes technology so long to figure out what people already know, huh?
It's a good question, and maybe something we can think about more as we look at the next decade.
Because if the 2020s are about, like, getting better at what we're already doing, the 2030s sounds seriously futuristic. What's AI saying about that?
AI says get ready for tech in your garden, like everywhere. And that's where Domany's take is helpful. He's not saying it's crazy talk.
So he's saying it actually makes sense.
Right. Think about it.
Yeah.
Robot lawnmowers, those automatic watering systems, they're already around. Those are like the
Yeah.
first little signs. But AI is saying there's way more to come.
We've had a little taste, but now we're going all in on garden tech. Speaking of which, AI also thinks edible landscaping is going to be huge. Which, I mean, makes sense, right?
Totally. It's like people want fresh food. We want to be better to the environment. And let's be real, it's cool to grow your own food.
Nothing better than fresh herbs right from your own little garden. Okay, before we get too comfy in our future gardens, let's talk about the 2040s. This is the part that's got me both excited and a little, nervous.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Because when AI looks that far into the future, things get really interesting, like wonder walls, global gardening communities. It's a whole thing.
Okay, so it's like 2040. My self-driving car just dropped me off at home, probably about to have a 3D printed dinner, but where's my garden in all of this? Did we forget about dirt?
I think AI has other ideas. It's not just a patch of dirt anymore. It's like our gardens are part of everything. Like picture this. Vertical farms, gardens on roofs, even those little container gardens, just plants everywhere.
Okay, and you mentioned these wonder walls earlier. Are we talking like an entire wall in my house is just like a vertical farm? Is that even doable, or is this getting a little too sci-fi?
AI seems to think it's closer than we think. Like less about being fancy, more about, cities are crowded, we need to grow food, so why not use our walls?
Makes sense. Bring the farm inside. But wouldn't we need like a robot gardener to keep up with all that? I can barely keep a basil plant alive.
Right, and that's where all this AI stuff comes in. These wonder walls would need some serious tech, like sensors to check the plants, make sure they have enough light, water, even keep the bugs away.
So I just sit back and eat my homegrown salad. Sounds pretty great, but also maybe a little sad for us folks who actually like to, get our hands dirty.
True, but it could also mean more people could actually have fresh food.
Yeah.
Even if they aren't great gardeners or don't have a yard. Fresh salad all year round, that's pretty cool.
No, that's something I could get behind. But it's not all about just growing food, right? AI also mentioned this biophilic design, whatever that means.
So it's basically just a fancy way of saying we should have more nature in our cities. Buildings with plants growing on them, offices with lots of light and greenery. Like making cities feel more like, well, nature.
Funny, right? We're talking about all this crazy tech, but AI is saying we still need nature.
We do. And more research is showing that being around nature is good for you, like less stress, cleaner air, It even helps you think better.
I know, I always feel better after a walk in the park than, walking down a busy street. Okay, but what about this global gardening community thing? Am I going to be swapping gardening tips with someone on the other side of the world?
It's not that crazy. Think about online forums, but for gardeners. Everyone sharing what they know, trading seeds. Kind of cool, you think about it.
A whole bunch of plant lovers working together. Kind of makes you feel hopeful, right?
It does. Especially with climate change and everything, sharing knowledge about how to grow food, that's important.
It's like something as simple as gardening could actually make a difference.
And that's what makes these AI predictions so interesting. It's not just about robots taking over our gardens. It's about how tech can help us connect with nature and make things better for everyone.
Wow, so from robot gardeners to like the whole planet working together to grow food, AI had some pretty big ideas about the future of gardening.
Right. Our gardens might be high-tech, but they're still about connecting with nature, just on a bigger scale.
It really makes you think, so what really stuck with you from all this? What's got you thinking?
Are you the type who would love some AI help in the garden? Or are you more like hands in the dirt, no robots allowed?
Personally, I'm still trying to picture this Wonderwall thing. Like, is that cool or a little too weird? I don't know.
It's definitely different. But AI is also talking about how important gardens are for the planet, for our communities. Did that resonate with you at all?
For sure. Before we go, I think we've got one last kind of inspiring thought for you to, chew on.
Okay, so imagine this. Your garden, it's not just a hobby anymore. It's part of something way bigger.
It's like your little garden is actually helping to build a better future, a greener future, a future where everyone can grow something amazing.
How cool is that?
Thanks for exploring the future of gardening with us, and until next time, happy gardening.